Hi guys, so I know it's late, but you know that whenever I do kind of like a wrap up type video, I always put it near the end of the month or the beginning of the new month. But yes, I am doing my kind of comic book wrap up slash AYEARATHON wrap up. And it is mega late because the AYEARATHON's always at the beginning of a month, and obviously this is not the beginning of said month. But anyway, for December's theme, it was kind of like, as usual, read any comic books, graphic novels, picture books, anything that can boost up your Goodreads goal, or you know, just to help you have some nice easy reads and quick reads for December. And it really did help me because I was 8 books behind schedule until the December AYEARATHON, and now currently I've only got 2 books left to read, so hopefully I can do that. I am filming this a bit earlier than I usually would. It's just before Christmas as I'm filming this, but you'll still be seeing it a little bit later on. Anyway, this isn't all of the graphic novels or picture books or anything like that that I have read. I thought I'd kind of split this into the stuff I read a little bit before AYEARATHON, graphic novels and that sort of stuff, and what I read for the AYEARATHON, and maybe a few added bits just after. But because this pile was compiling quite high, I thought, okay, I'll cut it off at this mark, and then anything that I read from whatever mark I decided to stop would be like in my novels and rest of the normal wrap up that I usually do. So you may still see some picture books or graphic novels or manga or something in that later wrap up, but yeah, this is part 1, technically everything that I read around the AYEARATHON kind of time period. So enough rambling, let's get on to the good stuff. So the first thing I picked up, which was actually I think a little bit before, I think it was the last day of November I decided to pick this up, and that is Saga Volume 3 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Now I'm sorry you've got like a little bit of glare going on. So as I said, this is the 3rd volume of Saga. Basically, if you don't know what Saga's about, it's pretty much a Romeo and Juliet kind of love story. You have these 2 main characters here who are from different planets, and they end up falling in love and having a child, and it's kind of about their fleet trying to find a safe place for their child and running away from the people that are trying to hurt them. I think it's a really good series overall. I've got a few reviews I think on the first 2 volumes. If you want to check that out, I'll link that below. Obviously I can't go too much into this, but I do have a Goodreads review if you want to read that, if you have read this of course. Because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who have never set eyes on this series before. But overall, I gave this a 3 stars. It wasn't as enjoyable as the first 2 volumes, and I think that mainly was because I didn't remember anything. Like, I had read the 2nd volume quite a while. I think I read it like this time last year, so it was quite a big gap, and I didn't remember anything from the series really, and so I was a little bit foggy about stuff going on here, and I was a little bit lost at times. So I think that was definitely a big input for why I didn't enjoy it that much. But you know, it was still decent. The end finally reeled me in and gave it 3 stars rather than anything lower, so there's that. My Kindle's about to die now, which is really annoying because I've got all my reviews up and ready for me to like grab points from, so hopefully it stays alive for me. The next thing I read was another comic, and this was Sex Criminals Volume 1 One Weird Trick by Matt Fraction and Chip Darsky. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. And basically I heard quite a lot about this around the time that I actually bought this comic, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped I would. It's basically about these 2 people who, when they orgasm, they can stop time, and they use that to commit small, like minor crimes sort of thing, and they get in trouble eventually. So it's kind of like following their lives and this weird magical trick that they've got going on and that sort of stuff. It's not as, I don't know how to really explain it. I gave it 2 stars. The jokes that were used in this completely went over my head. I found it difficult to kind of follow who was narrating which part because there were quite a few different text boxes and for quite a few different people. I don't know, I just got really kind of lost in that. I'm not really sure if I enjoyed the 4th wall breaking. I think, to be honest, only Deadpool can really do that right, and it just fell flat in kind of comparison. But in saying that, I've only ever seen the Deadpool movie, I've not read the comics, so I don't know how that translates well or whatever between comics and movie, so I'm just going off of that basis. Just generally, I didn't enjoy it too much. I do think the art was interesting. I like how they didn't go for overly like pretty characters. They've got quite bold features, and it's nice because that's what real humans look like, you know. And I really like the scene for when they were in the frozen time kind of period. It just looks really pretty. I'm trying to find Okay, excuse the explicit scenery, but it's just a really pretty kind of purple overlay, and I thought it looked quite magical. But yeah, sadly I didn't enjoy this too much. I think I might eventually go on to read the other ones, but I might just see if my library's got them. I'm not too keen on going out and buying them, but if this does get better, do let me know and I might think about actually purchasing them. Next up, I read The Graveyard Book Volume 2 by Neil Gaiman. This is a graphic novel interpretation of the book, the actual novel that Neil Gaiman wrote, by a plethora of illustrators, but it's kind of adapted by P. Craig Russell. I think I've done a review on the first one. If I have, I'll link it below somewhere, but if not, I've probably talked about it in a wrap-up or something. But I think I read it sometime last year. So basically, the whole idea of the Graveyard Book, sometimes I say Graveyard Boy, so do excuse me if I do mess up and keep saying that. But anyway, the whole idea of it is there's a young boy called Bod, who his full name is Nobody Owens, and he finds himself when he's very, very young in a graveyard, and he takes sanctuary there because there's a very bad man trying to kill him who has murdered his whole family. So he finds himself in the graveyard and he gets looked after there. He pretty much is fostered by the ghosts of the graveyard, and he grows up there, but slowly he starts to want to know what's going on in the outside world, why he can't leave, why he's so almost suffocated in the graveyard. He wants to become more of a person, sort of thing. And he gets very curious as he grows up. The 2 volumes follow him growing up, so it's really interesting that in every different chapter we have a different artist, and it kind of matures a little bit more as we go on. I definitely thought this was more plot driven than the first one. I think the first part of this, like in the first novel, was kind of, it felt like kind of lots of little mini stories just put together, whereas this felt like one story flowing. And I thought that was really cool. I will say that I did struggle to actually read the words. That's a little bit alarming. I felt like it was kind of glary on the page, and maybe the word font used and the colour used was just a little bit too contrasted. It made my eyes feel a bit weird. I don't know if that's an issue with me or what, but I just thought I'd mention that anyway. I think the ending really packed a punch, and to also kind of deliver that was the awesome art styles. They really were beautiful. They were awesome, and I loved how as our character progressed, the art style progressed with the different artists taking different styles and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend this 2-volume graphic novel adaptation. I've not actually read the proper novel, so if you have, let me know how it compares, if they do it right for the graphic novel, you know, if they give it a good, I don't know, if they do a good job kind of bringing what the novel says into graphic novel form. I'd like to know, because I am probably gonna eventually pick the actual novel up one day. So this got a 3.5 stars. I think I was on a little bit of a Neil Gaiman binge, because after the Graveyard Book I decided to jump in finally to the Sandman series by Neil Gaiman, of course. This is Volume 1, Preludes and Nocturnes. Now I've heard a lot about the Sandman series from my time as a reader, and it's always something that I've wanted to pick up, because I think that's what Neil Gaiman, as well as Coraline, is mostly known for in terms of when it comes to like graphic novels and comics and stuff. It's the Sandman series, and I don't know, it's really strange to me to think of it as a DC work. I don't know why, I don't know, it's really strange, I don't know. But yeah, I finally got around to reading this. So I don't really know how to describe what this is about. We're following like these personifications of feelings, of experiences, if that makes sense. In this one we're following the personification of dreams, and him going on to this sort of quest to almost redeem himself as Dream, if that makes sense, and his time on Earth and other planes of existences and stuff like that. It's really, really interesting. I am not giving it justice at all, but do try and look up a good plot summary or whatever, but also don't, because it's one of those things you want to just dive into and kind of absorb yourself. So, you know, choose what you'd like to do. I have a really long review on Goodreads, so if you're interested in finding out way more than I'm giving you in this video, feel free to check that out. I've always got my Goodreads link down below, so just look at my books and you'll find my review. Just very briefly, I gave it a 5 stars. I thought this was absolutely amazing. The storyline was quite interesting and unique. I loved the art style. It was very strange, but there was quite a few different, I don't know, styles. I don't know, everything was just so unique, and I really liked that we've got Gaiman doing this for us, because he's like one of my favourite authors. So Very, very good book. I'm sorry I can't get my thoughts across as eloquently as I'd like, but definitely check this out. So next I read The Dreaming by Queenie Chan. I also read the second one. This is a trilogy, and the second one is called, hold on, I think the second one is just called The Dreaming Part 2. So I'll talk about the first one first, obviously. Basically, this is about two twins that get into a boarding school that is headmistressed by their aunt, so it's kind of almost easy for them to get in. But there's kind of this big mystery surrounding twins and why the vice principal, I think it is, doesn't want to admit twins into this certain school. So as you go through it, you kind of discover why that's the case and what is this mystery surrounding the school. I gave this 2.5. It was a manga that was kind of given to me in bulk by my boyfriend. I think one of his colleagues went to a boot sale and this was in them, and I thought it looked interesting. But honestly, I probably wouldn't buy this myself. I ended up finding the second one on the author's website because she has the first two to read, but then you have to buy the third one, so I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to reading the third one. But the first book was just too flat and dry for me. The characters weren't very dynamic, they didn't have a lot of development, it was just kind of there. I felt like I was just being told and not feeling, if that makes sense. It just didn't have a lot of give to it. It really lacked depth, but obviously I'm still interested in reading the second one just because it is so short. It's a manga, it's easy to read, and it's only a trilogy, so I thought, okay, well, the second one's right there on the website to read for free, why not just give it a go? And that's what I did, and I will say I did enjoy it a lot more than the first book. I gave it 3 stars because the plot was definitely more well developed. I felt like we were getting somewhere. It was starting to grasp me a little bit more, get me interested. There were a lot less characters to keep track of, and for that I was thankful for, because in the first one there were so many characters just thrown at you, which kind of makes sense because they're just coming into the school, you're seeing all these new people, probably feeling how they're feeling, which is maybe a little bit overwhelmed. But for me, in manga form, when you only have a little bit of text, it was just too cluttered, too confused. This one, the second volume, definitely kind of lessened that because of the situations that happened in the first volume. So it definitely had improvement. I'm hoping the third volume has improvement as well, but I don't know when I'll get around to reading that. So in between those two books, I actually read Gothic Sports by Howdee-haie, I don't know if that's how you say it, which was also in that pile of mangas that my boyfriend gave me, which is published by Tokyopop. I think these ones are published by Tokyopop as well. So this is about a girl that comes into a new school, again, kind of similar theme. It's one of those really hard schools to get into, you have to have really good grades and stuff like that. And she's more interested in the sports there, that's why she wanted to get in. But she realises that nobody kind of wants her on their team, and so she decides to make a big kind of, I think it's, what is it, I don't know, basketball or something, team full of all the misfits and people that nobody kind of wants, and so they call it Gothic Sports. And yeah, it's just kind of a little sport manga. I don't think I've ever read a sport manga before, so this was my first time. So I gave this a 3-star. It was nothing special, it was a decent read, I did enjoy reading it, but I mean, again, if this was something that I was buying myself, I probably wouldn't pick it out and purchase it. But it definitely did grip me because of the outfits and stuff, so yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, just generally it was a good read, but it's not something I'm overly excited to continue. If I do ever decide to carry on the series, I'll probably just read it online or something. I don't think I'll go out of my way to purchase it. I might see if my local library has it or something, but I wouldn't go ahead and buy this for myself. After that, I read the last 3 issues of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which was issue 4, 5 and 6, I believe. So Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, I think it's taken a concept from an older series with a similar name, which was Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur, but it's about this young girl called Lunella, I believe, and she is very worried because she has the gene inside her that can turn her into one of those superhumans. It follows the, I think it's the Marvel universe actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Marvel universe. Yeah, because it's got Hulk and all that in there. She is super brainy, I need to mention. Basically following her as she's trying to cure herself because there is a big cloud of this superhuman turning dust about, and if she inhales it or gets caught in it, she will most likely turn into something she doesn't want to turn into. So we're just following her trying to cure herself, basically. I can't go into depth with the last 3 issues because they're the last 3 issues. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'll give you the star rating that I gave them, and if you have read like the whole volume or the issues individually, you can feel free again to read my individual reviews. So for issue 4 and 5, I gave them both 4 stars, and for issue 6 I gave it a 5 stars. It's definitely a great ending. I'm really excited. I think I would happily buy the bind up and then continue because I have really enjoyed reading this. I did take a break for a while, I don't know, kind of mid-year or whatever. I don't know when I started reading this, to be honest, so I'm making shit up. But no, I really did enjoy it. When I did read it, I was reading it fast, you know, it was really enjoyable. So I would definitely recommend that series. And I love the fact that we are focusing on a smart young girl of colour, because we don't see that a lot of the times in kind of mainstream companies and series, so it was nice to have that. Someone more that I can relate to, because I'm incredibly intelligent. I'm joking. And so that brings us up to the end of this video and concludes my reviews of all the comics and graphic novels and mangas that I've read during the spacing around the AYEARATHON. Let me know if you joined in with the AYEARATHON, and if so, are you excited about 2017's themes? And if you pick and choose, I tend to pick and choose what I actually want to participate in, because I think it's funner that way. I don't like every sort of theme, they don't interest me all the time. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed all these reviews. If you've read any of these things that I've mentioned, maybe completed it, let me know if anything's worth continuing on or what you thought about it just generally. And for now, I will leave you to it, and I'll speak to you in another video soon. Take care, bye.